Nintendo is one of the largest gaming and entertainment corporations on the planet, raking in billions and billions of dollars. And yet one solitary teenager managed to steal their secrets from the comfort of his own bedroom. With nothing but a laptop and an inclination for thievery, Ryan Hernandez almost ruins Nintendo for good. The hacking went on for years, with the FBI regularly engaged and hot on his tail. Did they end up tracking him down? What exactly did he steal? And how did he penetrate the supposed flawless security system of one of the world's biggest companies? Let's find out. We all know Nintendo. It's a name synonymous with video games around the world, and it has been for decades. With Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, Pikachu, and the rest of the gang, Nintendo isn't just a games company, it's an international mesh of cultural icons. In 2019 alone, Nintendo sold more than $10.91 billion worth of product, lifting its total company value at an estimated $85 billion. Headquartered in Kyoto, Nintendo is one of the most successful companies in Japan, with close to 6,000 employees, many of which were hackers themselves in past lives. So you would expect its security system to be airtight, right? Immense security budgets are put in place to protect the unreleased ideas, games, and consoles. So to have someone steal that unreleased information would not only be unfathomable, but catastrophic as well. Not to mention embarrassing when the thief is just a teenager. And yet, that is exactly what happened. Without even leaving his house, a then 17-year-old Ryan S. Hernandez managed to break into Nintendo's internal computer network and take his pick of company secrets, exposing them online and bragging about it for years to come. At a time when all other kids his age were studying for final exams, he was stealing millions of dollars worth of intellectual property from an entertainment conglomerate. The young man from Palmdale, California, which is right about here outside Los Angeles, went by Ryan Rocks online, and sometimes as Ryan West, so just remember those names because they're all the same person. So how was any of this possible? How did young Ryan manage to crack the elite security system of an $85 billion company? One word: phishing, with a PH. If you've ever received a spam email asking you to give your credit card details to a Nigerian prince, or a telemarketer demanding that you provide your social security number for a survey for the quote, new government branch, then you've been the target of phishing. Either through email, phone call, or text message, somebody posing as a legitimate institution tries to lure you in and convince you to provide sensitive data. It's digital trickery, and that's exactly how Ryan Hernandez managed to slip behind the first wall of Nintendo's security. In October of 2016, just 1 month after Nintendo had already contacted him with a warning, which we'll touch on in a moment, Ryan and an associate used a phishing technique to steal the credentials of a Nintendo employee, which he then used to gain access to Nintendo's files. He had persuaded a Nintendo employee to respond to a help request posted on an online forum, then used the stolen account credentials to upload malware onto the site. That malware allowed him to gain administrator access, not just contributor access, which he subsequently used to view and download a number of confidential Nintendo files. At his fingertips were unreleased information about upcoming games and consoles, including, of course, the Nintendo Switch. So wait, let's rewind for a moment. Like we said, Ryan was already on Nintendo's radar, but why? And if they already knew about him, how did he get away with such an audacious hack? Well, here's how. Hernandez first appeared on Nintendo's radar in mid-2016 when he registered for access to the developer portal through the official Nintendo process, and Nintendo said yes. Think of the developer portal as the place where independent creators officially interact with Nintendo to develop and list their game on the online store. It's a digital space which the general public does not have access to, a sector that had placed Ryan one step closer to the company's secrets. Therefore, once Ryan had gained developer access, he utilized his hacking skills to access select folders containing Nintendo's proprietary information, including material for the Wii U console and the Nintendo 3DS system. Nintendo realized that Ryan had shared some of its secrets online, quickly launching its own investigation. It didn't take them long to realize who was behind the attack. The IP address used for the hack shared the IP address that was legitimately used by Hernandez when he was accessing the Nintendo Developer Network. Think of it this way. Nintendo knew who Ryan was, and they knew his computer's IP address. When that IP address popped up again, it was as simple as running a database check to see if there were any matches. They were aware of who Hernandez was, so there was no point trying to hide his identity. Trying to nip the issue in the bud, Nintendo reached out to Ryan and his family through a representative and asked him to stop sharing the company's secrets. They didn't press charges because at the time, in September of 2016, Hernandez was still a minor. Okay, so he'd stolen in September of 2016, and then he had gone in and done so once more in October. But the issue wasn't solely the downloading of the classified files, it was the sharing. He leaked the information to the public via at least 3 different channels. First, Twitter, Second, Discord. And third, a chat room which was called Ryan's Underground Hangout. He was pumped about it too. According to statements released by the Department of Justice, Ryan's Underground Hangout was used to chat with others about Nintendo products, including the confidential information he had found from hacking, and was the chosen forum to share and boast about vulnerabilities that he had uncovered in Nintendo's cybersecurity network. Ryan Rocks was gaining notoriety and infamy in the hacking world. Fast forward to October of 2017, a year later, and enough was enough. It was time for the FBI to get involved. In October, the FBI arranged a visit to Ryan and his parents. Rather than pressing any serious charges, the FBI secured a promise from Hernandez that he would stop any further malicious activity moving forward. Ryan confirmed that he understood the consequences of any further hacking and would cease immediately. At least, that's what he told the agents. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, and Ryan's promise to the FBI, just like the one he made to Nintendo a year earlier, proved to be nothing but meaningless waffle. Clearly not taking the threats or promises seriously, Hernandez posted a meme on one of his Twitter accounts shortly after the FBI made him a visit, which depicted SpongeBob SquarePants as an FBI agent. To rub salt into the wound, he tagged Nintendo America's official Twitter account on the post. With a carefree attitude, it didn't take long for Ryan Hernandez to find himself back in the twisted web of online hacking. Over a period of at least 13 months, from at least June of 2018 to June of 2019, Ryan was scouring Nintendo's internal systems, hacking into multiple servers, and hijacking all sorts of unreleased information, this time on various popular video games and developer tools. In 2019, Ryan had well and truly exhausted his excuse of being a minor. Now an adult, the FBI wasn't as forgiving. In June, the FBI acquired a search warrant, allowing them to enter Ryan's house once more and do a clean sweep of all of his computer gear. They seized computers, hard drives, and circumvention devices, tools used to pirate games. The evidence was unquestionable. As you'd expect, once they'd taken those devices back to the labs for analysis, thousands of confidential Nintendo files were discovered. That wasn't all. More incriminating evidence was uncovered on his devices, entirely separate to the ongoing Nintendo hacking saga. This explicit material, which we really won't get into, was found in a folder directory that was labeled Bad Stuff. What kind of impact did Ryan's thievery have on Nintendo's income? The truth is that it's impossible to quantify. Once a game is pirated and unleashed online, tracking the number of downloads and shares is near impossible. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for the Nintendo Switch, for example, goes between $50 and $60. Multiply that by, say, 100,000 illegal copies, and we're well into the millions of dollars of lost revenue. That's not to mention the cost of investigating Ryan in the first place and the associated legal fees. The hacking, however, may have a much more disastrous impact than those numbers suggest. By sharing Nintendo's vulnerabilities online, Ryan effectively created a path for other cybercriminals to steal and, in turn, cause the company to unknowingly forfeit millions more in unsold copies due to the increase in pirated video game copies circulating the internet. Unfortunately for Nintendo, they're not out of the water yet. Unrelated to Ryan West's antics, over 160,000 Nintendo accounts were affected by hacking attempts since the beginning of April 2020. Those hackers secured information like user nicknames, date of birth, country, and email addresses. And some accounts made fraudulent purchases as well. To combat any future hacks to its customers, Nintendo is recommending that all users enable a two-factor authentication. Meanwhile, to combat hacks to its physical systems, they're utilizing hackers to their own advantage. What do we mean by this? Well, prior to the Switch's release in 2017, Nintendo was willing to pay out as much as $20,000 to hackers who were able to crack the system in return for their methods. This way, Nintendo could identify the hardware's security vulnerabilities before it hit the mass market. They used the same process for the 3DS the year prior. For small breaches in privacy, Nintendo would pay $100, with the $20,000 reserved for the most serious of flaws. In their eyes, a small initial payment was worth the investment to stop piracy from becoming a major issue. Not that it really worked, as Ryan Hernandez showed us. It was only a matter of time before the letter of the law was laid down. At the end of January 2020, Ryan Hernandez, aka Ryan West, aka Ryan Rocks, pled guilty in a U.S. District Court in Seattle to federal crimes related to his relentless computer hacking scheme and his possession of explicit digital material. For his actions, including revealing the Nintendo Switch before its official launch, Hernandez agreed to pay $259,323 in restitution costs. While we still await the official judge-determined sentencing, the Department of Justice has stated that Hernandez could spend between 3 and 5 years in prison for hacking, and up to 20 years for the explicit material found on his computer. However, in exchange for a guilty plea, prosecutors will recommend that he serves 3 years. Keep an eye out in the comments for the final verdict. If you were the judge, how many years would you give him? Let us know in the comments.